I mean, I was told by my film professor, there are films and there are movies, and sometimes you've got to know what you're walking into.
Yeah. See, but I come from a time when movies were films.
So this past week, it's been about 10 days now, we recently got our new trailer for the new Michael Jackson biopic coming out next April in 2026, starring Javar Jackson as Michael Jackson. And I feel like this new trailer's been under some fire, I guess you can say, that it may look like it's going to be bad, that the quality may not be that good for it, that it might not be that good of a biopic for Michael Jackson. And, you know, in regards to how I feel about it, I don't have any strong opinions on the new movie. I mean, it looks okay. I mean, I'm probably going to go see it, maybe. You know, Antoine Fuqua, he's made some solid films in the past, and I trust him to cook up something decent here with this next movie. But, you know, as for me, I don't really have any strong opinions on this movie. I will go see it. Will it be good? I don't know quite yet. You know, there's a lot of things going to have to go through for it to be good. That's not why we're here, though. What I'm here to answer and ask and answer the question is, are there too many biopics? I feel like I've been, you know, maybe not everyone. I know that for me, how I feel on it and how I see it, that I was asking myself, are there too many biopics? And I went through just a short list here of this decade alone. I just feel, once again, it's just me purely feeling that we've just gotten way too many biopics. That's how I started feeling out. I have a list here, and I'm just going to go through them all. It's a lot of movies here that are biopics from this decade alone that I feel like every year we get way too many. You know, last year, Complete Unknown. We had Oppenheimer, we had Elvis, we had Priscilla, we had Better Man, we had The Killers of the Flower Moon, we had Judas and the Black Messiah, Tick Tick Boom, King Richard, The Iron Claw, Air, Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, Blackberry, Tetris, Saturday Night Live biopic, Dumb Money, that GameStop biopic, we had the Napoleon biopic, the Maestro biopic, the Being the Ricardos biopic as well, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Ferrari, Argentina 1985, American Underdog, a football biopic. We had Rustin, we had Devotion, we had The United States versus Billie Holiday, that's more of a short series, but still it counts. We had the Bob Marley biopic, we had the Whitney Houston biopic, the George Foreman biopic, the Pharrell Williams biopic as well. We also had the Back to Black biopic, The Smashing Machine, Blue Moon comes out later this year, also a biopic, One Night in Miami, The Fire Inside. We recently had the Bruce Springsteen biopic. We had Marty Supreme, comes out in December. It's coming out soon. I'm very hyped for that movie, but regardless. We had The Courier. We had the Flamin' Hot Cheetos biopic. We had Safety, another football biopic. We had the Blonde biopic for Marilyn Monroe. We also had Christie. We also had The Society of Snow, George and Tammy Faye, and also Spencer. That's a very, very short list of all the biopics that I could, you know, think about in the back of my head and think to myself, there's been just way too many biopics here. And so let's just answer the question right now. No more clickbait. I'm not going to do that to you. Just answering the question, are there too many biopics? The answer is no. And you're probably saying, what, Logan? You just said that there's too many biopics. You went through that whole list of biopics, and you said there's too many. I understand that. You know, I'm very bipolar. I love being bipolar. It's awesome. And, you know, it's just, for me, I don't think there's too many biopics. I think the answer is honestly no. And at first I thought it was yes. I thought there was at first way too many biopics coming out. But now that I think about it, the answer is no, for various different reasons. And before we do, let's just start off with answering this question to really support my, you know, idea. There's not really too many biopics. The question is, what makes a good versus a bad biopic? You can't answer that question at all. You really, at least in my opinion, you can't answer that question. Just for a, you know, quick example here. Let's say you want to answer the question, what makes a good Batman movie? That makes sense. At least, you know, to me, you can say that what makes a good Batman movie? What makes a good Superman movie? It's XYZ. And, you know, same for Batman, you could say it's this, that, and the third. But it's not fair to say what makes a good superhero movie or whatever, then compare Wonder Woman, then Batman, then Superman from James Gunn. Like, there's so many different characters and all these different kind of arcs and everything that it's not fair to just blanketly, you know, say what makes a good biopic. It's, hey, Oppenheimer does this right, therefore that makes Oppenheimer a great biopic. And then the Complete Unknown Bob Dylan biopic does this right, therefore that makes it a great biopic. Like, it's just, for me, I can't really pinpoint that in that sense. You know, I can't really say that Oppenheimer does this right, therefore that makes it a great biopic, and then just go all the way to Priscilla, a completely different person in a completely different time period. And, and then just say that about that movie and that kind of biopic. So for me, it doesn't make sense to do that. And that's for me, and that reason, it doesn't make sense to say there's too many biopics if they're all extremely different, because they're all covering pretty different people. And I do like comparing movies. I do think there are some biopics that you can definitely compare and it would make sense to. Like, for me, I thought about Elvis in 2022, and then I thought about Priscilla that came out in 2023. Two movies that are, about Elvis and Priscilla. They have both of those people in those two respective movies, yet they both cover those two characters pretty differently. Seeing in Elvis' perspective, seeing what Priscilla was, and then seeing in Priscilla's perspective, seeing what Elvis was to her, it's super cool to study. It's a very super cool movie to really talk about and discuss. But like I said, I can't really go and look at a movie like Blonde with Marilyn Monroe and then talk about Napoleon after that. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It doesn't really add a lot of cohesiveness into that, sense of things. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to make those kind of comparisons. I feel like since we're all such different people, what happened in my life won't happen in yours or vice versa. I feel like what would work, at least, using me as an example, which is, stupid, whatever. When I'm, let's say, 80 years old and they come up to me and they say, Logan, we're going to make your biopic. For various different reasons, that biopic can be good or bad for a lot of different reasons, because just based on what happened in my life. If we had the Priscilla biopic come out, and then the Priscilla biopic doesn't have Elvis in it at all, I mean, really, one of the biggest points of her entire life, I think that would be a failed biopic. And, we can talk about a lot of different things. I mean, really, a biopic, there's so many different variables that can make it good. I mean, where do you start the biopic? At what stage in their life do you start it? At what point do you end it? Do you go from their birth to their death? That's very broad. What are you choosing to leave out? What are you choosing to keep in? What little pieces are you choosing to have be the massive enlightenment moment in their life, even if it wasn't really, we don't really know that much. Really for me, it looks like with this new Michael Jackson biopic coming out in April next year, for me, what concerns me, I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. I haven't seen it yet. I really don't think there's even been a single press screening just yet for the movie. But for me, my concern is them not being bold enough, them not going too far into his life, at least the points where, his residency, I think that's what it's called, right? Like when someone dies, they have like a group of people that like control everything about them, from like copyrights to this, that, and the third. I think it's some like a residency or whatever. I think that the residency of Michael Jackson may not want you to go deeper into his life, where he was, like white skin, where he got accused of, talking to little kids. They may not want that in the Michael Jackson biopic. They want all of the highlights, all of the bright moments. They don't want to go into the dark points of his life where he may not have been that good of a person. And this isn't me trying to slander Michael Jackson or to say he was a very bad person. I mean, I'm not saying that at all. He's the king of pop. There's no one that's going to be bigger than him when it comes to music. But still, for me, when it comes to a biopic, I just hope that they cover all of the right things. That's such a big person. I mean, Michael Jackson, someone who was bigger than life, that really to do a good biopic, I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like you're really, regardless of what you do or don't do, you're really going to be missing a lot of what made Michael Jackson Michael Jackson. You're really going to be missing a lot of the key points that a lot of people really wanted to see. And once again, I'm not trying to hate on Antoine Fuqua or that entire cast and crew. I mean, we have Miles Teller in that new movie, and I love Miles Teller. He's incredible. We have Coleman Domingo. We have Neil Long. We have an incredible, incredible cast here. The last thing I want is for this film to fail. But really, I think that's going to be very, very hard for it to be really good. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Because biopics, it can be kind of funny sometimes. Really, a lot of times it may not be able to cover all that it can for various different reasons. For me, the thing that I realized is that I don't think there is a biopic fatigue problem. I don't think that's the case at all, because we have pretty solid biopics from the past few years, this decade, that really have worked for me, And I'm going to go through my short list of some great biopics that I really, really love. But for me, I feel like it's a problem where I feel like we might just have a case of a fatigue of biopics that just are forgettable. I feel like that might be the issue. Same way like how we have a lot of problems in cinematic history, and right now cinema, there's a lot of problems. I feel like the main problems are too many sequels, a sequel and remake fatigue. That's definitely very, very true. I recently watched Jurassic World, the new one, and I had to say that it wasn't that good. And, the sequels and remakes and everything, it's too much. It feels very fatigued in that sense, that there's too much of them and they're not very good. And also, when it comes to the case of the superhero films, you can say that there is a superhero fatigue, but then we have a film like Superman that does very, very good money and gets some pretty solid reviews. So clearly, superhero fatigue isn't a problem. The problem is superhero movies that just aren't executed that well. The same goes for biopics. I don't feel like there is a biopic fatigue. I feel like there is a fatigue of biopics that are very poorly made. And there's a lot of biopics out there that are good and bad, but some that I can say, yeah, this was kind of forgettable. A lot of movies as well are forgettable. A lot of movies are really good, and then the next big thing comes out and so on and so forth. But still, I feel like when it comes to biopics, biopics really, it feels like, are the thing that is forgettable, at least for me. Maybe I haven't seen them, but still, I feel like the lifespan of a biopic, it feels so short these days. At least for me, once again, feelings and emotions, it does for me, it feels like that. Like last year, the Back to Black biopic, that one came out in the summer of last year about the, story of Amy Winehouse. And it feels like for me, that one, it kind of came and went. It kind of came and went. No one really saw it. Didn't make that much money either. The reviews may not have been the best for it either. And it kind of came and went very quickly. The new Bruce Springsteen biopic, I love Jeremy Allen White and also Jeremy Strong. I love The Bear. I truly adore The Bear. But it feels like this one is kind of just a come and go movie. It really does. I feel like, from the reviews here on Letterboxd, the reviews aren't the best either. I heard that the story of Bruce Springsteen, it wasn't that good either. So unfortunately, it kind of came and went. The Bob Marley biopic, I feel like that one really came and went also. Came out earlier in the year of 2024. It really kind of went by like a week. I feel like no one really talked about it. I Want to Dance with Somebody for Whitney Houston. That one came out in December of 2022. Really came and went. I feel like no one saw it. It was just it looked like a poorly made film that wasn't that good, that no one really talked about or saw. But then on the inverse of that, I feel like there is a lot of biopics that I feel like are very fondly remembered and talked about to this day even, And like I said, biopics, they really do come and go, just like a lot of other films as well. A lot of movies come and go. There's a lot of great movies that just, hey, last year, Doom Part 2 was great, and now we're on to the next thing. It's just how it goes. That's just how movies are in general. But for biopics, it feels extremely specific. And I don't want to blame the studios. I don't want to blame the studios because, hey, if you have the opportunity to make a story and a movie about a really cool person, and that's probably going to make you a lot of money, you're going to take the opportunity to do it. When Christopher Nolan went up to Universal and said, hey, Universal, I'm making an Oppenheimer biopic about the atomic bomb. They're going to say, yeah, take $500 million. If James Mangold goes into Fox and says, hey, Fox, me, Timothée Chalamet, we're going to do a Bob Dylan biopic. They're going to say, you know what? Take $250 million, do whatever you want with it, because that's going to make us a lot of money. And I think it actually did make a good bit of money there as well. And also for Oppenheimer, Billy at the box office. I know and I understand it's a very outlier situation, but still, biopics tend to make some pretty easy cash as well. But the bad thing for me is the biopics that don't feel genuine, that don't feel like they had a lot of work really put into them, that feel lazy and rushed and don't really take that extra step to make it a really good movie. There's a lot of biopics out there that are very unique and super cool. Like I said, I'll talk about them here in a second. But then we have some other biopics that just feel like it was just a rushed, dumb movie to just have it in there for the money. The Dumb Money biopic about the GameStop stock thing that happened. That one, I can kind of tell and look from the poster and everything, it looks like it was maybe a little bit lazy, a little bit poopy of a movie. I haven't seen it personally. I haven't seen it, but still, it does look like it's one of those movies that was made purely because, oh, this big thing's happening right now. We're making a biopic on it. It happens every time. It happens all the time where, a big thing happens or a big person, whatever, biopic's coming out because of the money. And that's understandable for movies, but still, it is hindering the entire subgenre as a whole, in my opinion. And this is definitely something that I want to talk about as time goes on. We're going to be getting a lot of biopics. But just a short answer, do we have too many biopics? I say no. I think there's a lot of cool biopics that can be made in the future. But is there an issue where biopics are being made lazily and aren't really doing a good job at covering a person's life? I think there is an epidemic of that's going on right now. And I'll just talk about it real quick here. I mean, some biopics I think can be made in the future. What are some biopics, in my opinion, that in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we could see a biopic on X? For me, I think that a biopic on Barack Obama will be happening eventually. And I think it will be pretty good if it's done right. And that's a perfect example of whoever gets rights to the Barack Obama biopic is going to go all in on it to make a lot of money. And this is how movie studios are. But still, they could also do the Barack Obama biopic and not do a good job at all, which kind of was inevitable because it's a political situation. No one's going to agree with it, but, whatever. It's a very long story, but still, that I think could happen in the future. That's, I think, for sure when that could definitely happen. Or even a biopic for maybe even Taylor Swift or Frank Sinatra or Nat King Cole. I know that a Frank Sinatra biopic was supposed to happen. A Nat King Cole biopic is in the works, I heard, with Coleman Domingo as Nat King Cole. But still, something that can happen in the future, and it probably will because of the money. But I hope that biopics are made right. They're made well. That's the main issue here. It's not that biopics are bad. It's that there's a lot of bad biopics that are forgettable and just not the best in the world. So how do we exactly fix the issue? It's to make better biopics. I feel like it's the entire point here of what I'm trying to say. It's to make better biopics, okay? And there's a lot of biopics out there. A lot of them are good and bad. But I'm just going to give a quick little short list of my opinion. Some of the best biopics that I've seen recently and that really worked for me. Number 1, Oppenheimer. It's a 5 out of 5 movie. It's absolutely perfect. It's maybe the best biopic ever made in cinematic history. Maybe, potentially. Another solid example of how to do biopics, I would say, is Priscilla. Even though Priscilla was good, but I think the main thing that made Priscilla good was the fact that Elvis came out like a year before. That's what made it, I think, really good for me. But still, Priscilla was a fantastic, fantastic biopic. Another one is The Iron Claw, Zac Efron. That's an incredible, 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 incredible biopic, an incredible film in general. One of the best of the entire decade so far. It's extremely effective. And just so incredible. I really, really love The Iron Claw a lot. Another biopic that's really, really good, First Man, Damien Chazelle, Ryan Gosling. Damien Chazelle, he is a prodigy. He's one of the best directors right now working today. No one's talking about it, but still, he has been on a 4P. He hasn't missed a movie yet for me. I've given all 4 of his films at least a 4.5 out of 5. He cooked immensely with First Man. Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong. It could have gotten an Oscar, maybe, but still, it's an incredible biopic that feels extremely, extremely genuine as well. And there's some parts in First Man, really this conversation can go on forever in terms of what's accurate, what's not accurate, what happened, what really didn't happen, what was added into the movie for purely dramatic effect and what wasn't. First Man, if you see the movie, you definitely understand. But I feel like there is a part of First Man that feels like it was fake and maybe in there for just a dramatic, resolution and climax of the movie. That's a really good point in the film, but it maybe wasn't 100% accurate either. And a few other little biopics here that I think are really, really good. Wolf of Wall Street, that's a great biopic as well with Leonardo DiCaprio. Also, Martin Scorsese being incredible. That's a great one. Rush is one from Ron Howard that I heard isn't as accurate, but still, for me, it works. It's very entertaining. It's a very solid biopic. And like I said, this conversation can go on further in terms of what makes a biopic good. Is it that it's entertaining or is it that it's accurate? We can talk about that forever. It's a very, very just long and heavy conversation and a very heavy debate for me, at least. It can really go on forever. Lion is another really good biopic. Greg Fraser was on DP for that film. Lion looks incredible. Also great acting from Dev Patel as well. Going on to some other biopics that are really, really good. American Sniper is one that's a very iconic and really good one. The Social Network as well. We have good biopics, but I feel like recently a lot of them can feel like slop, and sometimes it's really just like a waste. It's really unfortunate, but when we have biopics like Malcolm X from our GOAT Spike Lee, or we also have The Founder. That was a really good biopic too. It feels like a lot of the time we've gotten lazy. We've gotten lazy. We've lost attention to detail. It is upsetting. But, we have some really cool ones in the future and some really cool ones from the past that really do work as well. For the future, at least for me, what I think is going to be really good, the Beatles biopic. They're going to have 4 separate movies for all the Beatles members with some incredible actors as well. Harris Dickinson, Paul Mescal, Joseph Quinn, and Barry Keoghan. That's going to be incredible. Also from Sam Mendes. He's a GOAT in his own right. He's definitely up there. It's going to be a really, really good one for that one. I'm very excited to see that. It's going to be coming out, I think, in 2027 or 8-ish, something like that. I'm excited for it for sure. Some other ones before we go out here. Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with my GOAT, of course, Tom Hanks playing Fred Rogers. He was really good in that one. Also, Ford v Ferrari, another very solid biopic. So I'm going to cut it for today. So I'm going to talk about this for a very long time, but it was just really important for me to just come out here and touch base to really just think and talk about what makes a good biopic. Are there too many? The answer is no. But still, let me know what's your opinion on it. Are there too many biopics? Are there not enough good ones or bad ones? Whatever you want to say, let me know. Are there too many biopics? And what's your favorite as well? I really want to hear you out. You can sign up down below. We have a little fan mail thing down there below. It's pretty cool. You should go in there and see what's up. If you couldn't tell, I do feel very sick right now. I do have a cold and I'm feeling very nasally. I've also been pretty busy as well, so it's been a rough schedule. I haven't really been able to record that much, but, I was sick. This is my second time being sick. Also, I got very busy with work as well, so I wasn't really that active in having time to record anything. But still, looking to the future. For this next 2 months here before Oscar season, November and December, we still have some very big films coming out. The biggest one for me, Marty Supreme. I am incredibly, incredibly hyped for Marty Supreme. I think it's going to be really, really good. Also, I did see Frankenstein. That was pretty fun. Begonia, it's a really big movie out right now. Badlands, Predator film, also is out as well. Die My Love, I heard huge things about it. Jennifer Lawrence, Robert Pattinson, 2 GOATs in their own right. I've heard a lot of big things about that one. I heard that one's a very big Oscar movie. Some other films to look out for, obviously you have Avatar. I heard the Avengers Doomsday trailer going to be out during Avatar, so that's really a pretty big one. Besides that, we have some pretty big films coming out. Besides that, Friday Nights at Freddy's coming out again. That's going to be pretty cool, I hope. I hope it's really good. We'll have to see. But besides that, I think that's actually it. So until next time, stay swagged out, stay cool, watch more films, and as always, I'm your slogan. I'll see you boys in the movies.